and tried Superintendent Mr. Lee to his right is Madam Fu from the Eastern Kowloon Operations Unit, and to your far left is Mr. Jiang from Public Relations, Senior Superintendent. Thank you. Radical protest conducted unlawful acts. The scale was escalated during the last weekend. After last week's peaceful demonstration without one fire of the tear gas, we thought Hong Kong finally has a turning point, but the violent protesters let us down once again. Hong Kong has once again fallen into chaos. In the past weekend, extreme violent acts happened in different districts. Saturday in Kwun Tong, Sunday in Tuen Wan and Kwai Tsing. Huge amount of rioters with the flag of peaceful demonstrators escalated their violent acts randomly. No matter how much they claim that these acts are peaceful, these were violent atrocities because that was their target. If you look at these photos, you would understand that they have seriously damaged others' interests in the past weekend. We've witnessed rioters setting up different kinds of barricades. They conducted arson. Radical protesters hurled large amount of petrol bombs as well as lethal weapons at journalists, bystanders, and police officers. As you could see, there were metal balls, slingshot, long metal poles, even some bricks chained with iron. Some rioters hurled petrol bombs from overpass, targeted at the police at the ground. They used long metal poles, bamboo poles, rackets, and suspected makeshift guns to attack police. There were some rioters hurl petrol bombs at innocent bystanders and journalists. They were burned, and the consequences were serious and unrescuable. Rioters, besides using these lethal weapons to attack others, they attack those who hold different opinions. Let us look at this footage. It is quite clear from the footage that huge amount of rioters clad in black besiege rioters and shot paint at the face of other residents. Were these acts peaceful, as claimed by them? They tried to claim that these acts were peaceful. However, whatever they have conducted was violent. They pre-organized violent acts in different districts, blockade roads, vandalize public facilities. They claim that they don't vandalize private properties, but that was not the fact. Some rioters use water barricades, road railings, metal poles to set up road barricades, and huge bad influence, and also impeded the function of emergency services. And you could see they were vandalizing the lampposts. The Sunday atrocities damaged the stores in Kowloon, and they vandalized the CCTV cameras. They broke the windows and the doors, and they also verbally bully and threatened the store workers and the users there. Afterwards, they went to the Cross Harbor Tunnel of Hong Kong, did further vandalization, and they broke the fee charging window, and as well as the traffic signal at the fee tolling stops. The rioters claim that they were expressing their demands, but whatever they've done was disturbances. So I would like to turn the mic to Mr. Xie, General Superintendent. Good afternoon, everyone. In Kowloon Sajoi Road, there were two clarifications. On the internet, you could see that last night, numerous rioters used bamboo sticks and offensive weapons pursue madly the police officers. The aim was not only beating up the police, they wanted to hurt them greatly, even to murder them. And some of the police officers were not even riot police, and they didn't wear their protective gears. They only had a pepper spray as well as the revolver. And the police vehicle was vandalized, and the window were broken. A sharpened metal pole was used by a rioter against the back of a police. The police bled a lot. So that was not without weapon. That was not a peaceful demonstration. Let us look at the footage. Back then, some other police were trying to go to the stores that were vandalized by rioters. However, they were pursued by rioters, and didn't have enough gear, so they had to use the shield to block bricks or other hard objects hurled at them from higher ground. They had to tumble back. The shield was broken into pieces by hard objects. They had to wheel the baton. However, still, that was not enough. The rioters beaten them up. Even though the police officers fell down on the floor, the rioters kept pursuing them and tried to beat them up. One police officer had to give up his baton, and he had to draw his revolver at the rioter. And then the situation escalated. One police officer had to fire a warning shot into the air. During the incident, the police officer made a rational choice. His use of force was restrained. In such a short period of time, when the police tried to warn the rioters stop damaging damaging the police officers and the bystanders. One rioter knelt down at the ground in front of the police officer. The danger was still there. The police officer, one hand holding the broken shield, the other hand holding a barrier. His back and his sides were hurt by the metal poles held by the rioters. And during the seconds of time, he chose to use his leg to push away the kneeling down rioter to control the situation. I also want to point out that besides the rioter, there were dozens of journalists bystanding. As you could tell from this photo, back then, behind the journalist, in the red circle, in the crowd of the journalists, we saw bricks flying out, targeting at the police. So the police had to draw his revolver at the brick. I have to say, the police officer was not targeting at any journalist. Taking this opportunity, I would like to appeal to the journalists. During this extreme violence, please take care of your own personal safety and don't stand at any dangerous place to avoid personal damage. Back then, when police sustained injury, he retreated waiting for rescue. He was still encircled by the journalist, challenged him to give a response. I don't think that's rational. When the police try to control the situation, it's impossible for them to take care of journalists' requirements. In that moment, the prerequisite and also the most important, the priority for the police was not to respond to the journalist. And then we send the media liaison at the venue. In the past weekend, the police arrested 86 people. In Saturday, in the eastern Kowloon, demonstrations and violence, the police arrested 22 men, 10 women, aged 16 to 22, charged of the crimes of assaulting police, possession of offensive weapon. In the Sunday incidents, the police arrested 54 persons 49 men, 55 men, 9 women charged of the crime of unlawful assembly, assaulting police, resisting police, executing their duties, and the possession of offensive weapon. Court sessions. On July 21st, Yuanlang incident, the police has arrested 30 people. We've prosecuted 2 men and charged of the crime of rioting this afternoon, and they were at the court hearing at Fenlang, and about the Chinese mainland journalist case. Earlier on, we've arrested 1 more man, and we've prosecuted him with unlawful assembly, possession of offensive weapon, and unlawful detainment. And in the afternoon, he attended the court hearing as well. We've prosecuted 2 men charged with the crime of rioting, ages 21 to 33. On August 24th afternoon, this afternoon, they attended court hearing in Kwantong Magistrate. And on August 25, we've arrested 1 man and 1 woman charged with unlawful assembly. And this afternoon, they were at Kwantong Court for a court session. Police injuries. In the past weekend, August 24th, the Saturday, 26 police officers sustained injury. On Sunday, 16 police officers sustained injuries, including a driver of the police vehicle, and his back was hurt by a sharpened metal pole. He's hospitalized still. Mr. Xie mentioned 6 police officers draw their revolvers. One of them's personal information was maliciously put on the internet. His family members and his own photos were also exposed on the internet. So he was not only physically injured, but also mentally abused. Use of bullets. In the past weekend, on Friday, we didn't fire any bullets. August 24th, Saturday, we fired 70 tear gas, 20 rubber bullets, and 30 sponge-head bullet. And Sunday, we fired 145 tear gas, 4 bean rounds. In Chong'an and Sachoi road crossings, 1 police officer shot at the sky as a warning shot. That's all. Let me summarize. First of all, most importantly, when somebody commits crime, the police will definitely enforce the law. We have to point out the blockade of roads, the vandalism of the public facilities, and the hurling petrol bombs at police couldn't accepted by any civil society. These atrocities threatens residents' life and impedes a reputation as a rule of law society. The rioters' so-called demands are the excuses of their crimes. Hong Kong people, when you go out during the weekend, you have to think where is safe, where will be a demonstration. Suppose your friend, your family member would hit by a petrol bomb, would you still support these rioters? Would you still tolerate such violent acts? The rioters who hurl petrol bombs and bricks, if they were your children, would you still endorse such behaviors by them? We have to point out any demand can't legalize such violent acts or validate such violent acts. These acts are not accepted by Hong Kong people because those who regard Hong Kong as their home would definitely accept such violent acts, because whatever they're doing is targeted at the messing up of the entire Hong Kong society and to disturb the peaceful life of residents. Hong Kong has been peaceful, stable, safe, and orderly. The police sincerely appeal to residents to stand out and say no to the violent acts. If you don't, then the rioters would think that you support them. Once again, we would like to appeal to you that don't participate in these unlawful activities. As bystanders, you might be hurt in dangerous situations. Even though you're innocent, you must understand the responsibility of police is to maintain order and law, protect residents' property and personal safety. When faced with violence, police will use relevant level of force. We reiterate, if protesters don't use violence, we will never exercise force. Thank you.
At the hands of radical protesters. In Sunday afternoon, what began as a lawful public order event in Tsuen Wan quickly turned violent and escalated to reckless destruction of properties and brutal attack on police officers. We have seen an increase in the intensity and extensity of violence used by protesters. Their radical acts have intensified with more dangerous and sometimes deadly weapons used, including bricks, metal posts, long sticks, and petrol bombs. Such violent clashes have extended from venues of public meetings to various unrelated districts in Hong Kong, with no sign or warning to the general public. These attacks are intentional and planned and organized. Not only do their acts put everyone on site in extreme danger, but they also threaten the everyday life of ordinary citizens. It's a great threat to public safety in Hong Kong. Throughout the whole afternoon on Sunday, a large gang of rioters threw numerous self-made petrol bombs at police officers in Tsuen Wan. In certain instances, they randomly threw petrol bombs from height at people on protest sites, hitting innocent passersby and reporters. They also rampantly hurled bricks, metal posts, and all kinds of hard objects at our officers. Such reckless use of violence placed everyone in immense danger. 21 police officers in total were injured as a result. On the same day, we also saw extensive destructions of properties. Rioters set up numerous barricades with water-filled barriers, dismantled railings, and bamboo sticks on major roads, paralyzing traffic. In the evening, a gang of rioters randomly vandalized multiple shops in Tsuen Wan, shattering glass panes and breaking metal gates. Then, some proceed to cross Harbour Tunnel and smashed booths and facilities for no reason. As on Saturday, some radical protesters broke and tore down a few smart street lampposts in Kowloon Bay. Their destructive acts are rampant and reckless. They are not tolerated by any civilized society. Now, I will talk about the open fire incident on Shui Road, Chinwan. At around 8 p.m., our officers of the emergency unit arrived at Yiping Square, Chinwan, to handle urgent cases of criminal damage. Over 100 rioters, armed with offensive weapons, surrounded and attacked our officers. They charged at our colleagues with rose-eyes, metal poles, and long sticks repeatedly and recklessly. They charged. As a result, our officers sustained multiple serious injuries. Their helmets, shields, and other protective gears were smashed. In one fresh point, our officer fell down, but rioters still charged him brutally. It was clear intention to take his life. Our officers' lives were in great danger. One officer fired a warning shot into the air. No one was hit. 6 officers held up their revolvers as a precautionary measure. I must emphasize the officers demonstrate great restraint. Their use of force was indeed necessary and reasonable. It was to protect any person, including our officers themselves, from death or serious bodily injury. I'm aware that there's much media interest in the incident where our officers was seen to have kicked a man kneeling down in front of him. Please let me clarify that at that time, our officers had already drawn their guns and pointed at rioters to combat their violence. Please try to put yourself into our officers' shoes. During that critical moment, this man suddenly appeared in front. Understandably, he appeared as a threat. That particular officer was holding a revolver and a shield. He could only use his feet to make him move. Also, from other videos, we saw that man actually was among the rioters and holding a long umbrella. So it is difficult to ascertain his actual role in the protest. In addition, as much as we respect press freedom, we would like to appeal to all journalists to mind their own safety during police operations, especially in times of violent clashes. We have forced media liaison cadre on protest sites to facilitate reporters' work. But please understand, during life or death situation like yesterday, it was impossible for officers to cater for their convenience. We advise reporters to coordinate with our work while covering violent incidents. About the arrest figures, now we'll move on. On Saturday, we arrest 32 people consisting of 22 males and 10 males, aged between 16 to 52 years old. On Sunday, we arrest 54 people consisting of 45 males and 9 females, aged between 12 and 51 years old. Their offenses include unlawful assembly, assaulting police officer, possession of offensive weapons, etc. About officers injured on duty. In total, 21 police officers sustained different degrees of injuries. They were mainly hurt by bricks, metal poles, and long sticks being thrown at them. In conclusion, I must emphasize the police have zero tolerance for all violent acts. Here in Hong Kong, we always take pride on our safety and rule of law. Please ask ourselves, is this the Hong Kong you would like to see? If you still remain silent and tolerate such radical acts, I appeal to you to raise your voice against violence and cut ties with all rioters. As police officers, we will continue to stand firm and carry out our duties faithfully, diligently, and impartially. We pledge to every member of the public to bring all offenders to justice and perform our best to restore public order. Thank you.